This month, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese gave a major economic speech. And the numbers he cited sounded genuinely good. 1.2 million new jobs created. The lowest average unemployment in 50 years. Wages growth above 3% every quarter. Gross debt $170 billion lower than what the government inherited. An economy growing faster than almost every other advanced nation. And yet if you ask ordinary Australians how the economy feels, you get a very different answer. 2 in 5 say they're struggling to get by. Life satisfaction is at a record low. People are skipping meals, raiding their super, and watching their rent. And mortgage and grocery bills climb. So which is it? Is the Australian economy strong? Or is it broken? Today we're going to explain why both of those things can be true at the same time. And why the gap between the official numbers and how people actually feel is the defining economic story of 2026. Let's start by giving the Prime Minister his due. Because the numbers he cited are real. Australia has, by most conventional macroeconomic measures, performed well over the past 4 years. The economy avoided recession when many predicted one. Unemployment has stayed low around 4.3%, which, by historical standards, is excellent. 1.2 million jobs is a genuinely large number. Business investment, as a share of the economy, is at its highest level in a decade. And Australia's growth rate has indeed outpaced most comparable advanced economies. These are not fake numbers. They're not spin, by the standard measures economists have used for decades. To judge the health of an economy, Australia is doing reasonably well, especially given the global headwinds of the past few years. The pandemic aftermath, the Ukraine war, US tariffs, and now the Iran war and its fuel price shock. So why does almost nobody feel it? The answer is in a concept economists call real household disposable income. And understanding it explains everything. Your disposable income is what you have left after tax. Your real disposable income is that amount, adjusted for inflation, what your money can actually buy. And the crucial third element is what's left after your unavoidable costs. Your mortgage or rent, your interest payments. Here's what's happened. Wages have grown above 3%. That sounds good, but inflation has been running at 4% or higher. So in real terms, after accounting for rising prices, wages have gone backwards, not forwards. The pay rise gets eaten by higher prices before it reaches your pocket. Then add interest rates. The RBA raised rates 3 times this year to 4.35%. For the millions of Australians with a mortgage, that means monthly repayments that are hundreds, sometimes more than $1,000 higher than 3 years ago. That money comes straight out of disposable income before anything else. Commonwealth Bank's economists have spelled it out: the growth in real household disposable income above and beyond inflation, interest, and tax has slowed sharply. That's the number that actually determines how much money you have to live on. And that number has been going backwards, even as the headline economic figures look healthy. This is the heart of the disconnect. The aggregate economy, the total size of everything Australia produces, is growing, but that growth is not flowing through to the individual household budget. The pie is getting bigger, but the slice that reaches your kitchen table is getting smaller. There are a few reasons for this. Population growth is a big one. Australia added nearly 500,000 people last year. When you add that many people, total economic output goes up: more workers, more spending, more activity. But GDP per person, the economy, divided by the number of people, tells a different story. On a per-person basis, Australians have actually been getting poorer through parts of this period. Even as the total economy grew, the growth is being spread across more people. Housing is another. The single biggest cost in most Australians' budgets is housing rent or mortgage. And housing costs have risen far faster than wages. So even with a pay rise and a growing economy, if your rent goes up 50% over 5 years, you're worse off. The economy can grow all it wants, but if the growth doesn't build more affordable homes, people don't feel richer. And then there's the distribution question. Economic growth doesn't reach everyone equally. Business investment is strong, but the returns from that investment flow disproportionately to business owners and shareholders, not to wage earners. The jobs are there, but the wages Those jobs' pay haven't kept pace with the cost of living. So you can have record employment and widespread financial stress simultaneously. This creates an enormous political problem, and the Prime Minister knows it. In his speech, Albanese acknowledged the disconnect directly. He said you can build a brand of politics out of amplifying frustration and seeking to harvest it. A clear reference to One Nation, which is polling at over 20%, but that doesn't take the country forward. He argued his government isn't just acknowledging the pressure Australians are under, but acting on it, through structural reforms to Medicare, the NDIS, housing, energy, and tax. The political danger for the government is obvious. When you stand up and say the economy is strong, citing real, accurate numbers, to a population that feels broke, you risk sounding out of touch. People don't experience GDP growth. They experience their grocery bill, their rent, their mortgage repayment, their power bill, and all of those have gone up faster than their income. This is exactly the gap that populist movements exploit. When the government says things are good and people feel things are bad, the space opens for someone to say the establishment is lying to you. And only I understand your pain. That's the One Nation playbook. And it's working, in part, because the official economic story and the lived economic reality have diverged so sharply. So what's the honest assessment? Both things are true. Australia's economy, by aggregate measures, is genuinely resilient. It has weathered enormous global shocks better than most. The jobs numbers are real. The growth is real. And at the same time, millions of individual Australian households are genuinely struggling. Because real disposable income, the money actually available to live on after inflation and interest and tax, has gone backwards. That struggle is also real. The mistake is treating these as competing claims where one must be false. They're both accurate descriptions of different things. The macroeconomy is doing one thing. The household budget is doing another. And the gap between them is where Australian politics is being fought right now. The thing to watch over the coming year is whether that gap closes. If inflation comes down, and the RBA expects it to ease through 2027, and if interest rates start to fall, and if wage growth finally outpaces price growth, then real disposable income starts to recover. That's when the official numbers and the lived experience start to line up again. Until then, expect to keep hearing the government talk about a strong economy, while ordinary Australians wonder what economy they're talking about. Does the economy feel strong to you? Or does the gap between the official numbers and your own budget feel as wide? As ever, drop it in the comments. This is exactly the kind of disconnect I want to hear. People's real experiences of. Like and subscribe for more Australian news explained simply. See you next time.